calls me from out of the pit.
I'm Paul,
I'm Mark.
and this is the return of the son of the show. Yeah. We're gonna do something a little bit different this week because Mark and I are on season 2 of the Bionic Woman. We recorded our review of season 1 of the Bionic Woman on a show that YouTube decided they didn't want us to have anymore. So I've created this little From the Vault episode for you so that you're not lost. So watch that video and then come back and watch part 2, the season 2 of the Bionic Woman.
Correct.
And now, through the magic of editing, I bring you season 1 of the Bionic Woman.
Kenner's new Bionic Woman Jamie Summers and the new Bionic Beauty Salon, sold separately, assembly required.
Jamie Summers had a rest mission. We better check her bionic system. She's okay. Steve Austin will be here soon. I'll brush and comb her beautiful hair. He's here! She's ready!
The Bionic Beauty Salon, new from Kenner. The Bionic Woman, sold separately.
You'll notice Mike isn't with us. He's busy at home polishing up his Shaq memorabilia and couldn't join us.
Correct.
But even though it's a Tuesday, we're doing this on Saturday night because before the guys get together and we watch Svengoolie, Mark and I have been watching the Bionic Woman series. We just finished season 1, and then we watched the Return of the Bigfoot. And we thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about like the highs, lows, impressions, ideas, thoughts regarding this rather groundbreaking series.
I think we were both amazed that how young we were when this came out. I mean, definitely, and I my memories are of the $6 Million Man first, of course.
Yeah.
But and Bigfoot scaring the crap out of me, and I swear he was outside my window every night. But no, I think with the Bionic Woman, it's clearly we've been listening to the audio commentary, and it's very clear that they set out to do, and it really was Lindsay Wagner that drove the tone of the Bionic Woman. So change. She refused, didn't really want to do it, the show after she was dead and then resurrected in a one-off episode. But they allowed her to have a lot of input into the show. Hence, we get her being a teacher with kids and more family-friendly entertainment, and less violence than, say, the $6 Million Man.
Yeah, because she never just flat out nails anybody. She just pushes them away. Doesn't even, I mean, Steve does a lot of the backhand stuff.
Right.
She only backhands objects that are coming at her.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was 1976 when the Bionic Woman came out. $6 Million Man was like 74. There was a couple of TV movies they made before they turned it into a series. But as I was telling Mark before this, I just assumed everything was made in 77. I had no idea that this was as old as it was. And then I sit there and I think about, okay, God, I was like 8 years old when the Bionic Woman came out.
Yeah.
I always just thought everything came out in 1977 because science fiction didn't exist before Star Wars.
Right.
But yeah, we were like 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah. Which I think explains a lot of my memories of the show. It's very kid oriented and memories of both shows. And so I think it's kind of interesting watching it as an adult.
Yeah.
Some of the cringe factor, but I mean, some of the episodes were really good.
Right.
So I mean, it's not. It suffers as most old television shows do. So I mean, it wasn't prestige television back when we were kids, and they weren't purposely setting out to make cinematic. They're put out to be entertaining shows, but. Bionic Woman Lindsay Wagner always made sure there was a message to it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty clear in most of the episodes.
Yeah.
Overall, the season, I think they're trying to find their footing, with her. Probably, I mean, I think I would argue the more kid-friendly episodes were better, more her forte.
Yeah.
Her as a spy is kind of kind of laughable.
We joke about that because it's like anytime she has to do spy stuff, she's terrible at it.
Yeah.
And one of the things you and I talked about watching the series was how anytime there was like real spy business needed to be done, Steve Austin always showed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, so she can't do it herself, clearly. That's, the man
has to be a man to come help her
and
out,
save the day. Season 1 was 13 episodes, which first of all blew my mind because that's like a Netflix series run now. But season 2 was like the standard 24. So this was probably what do they call that?
Mid-season replacement.
A mid-season show. But overall, out of 13 episodes, which ones are probably your favorite? Let's talk about them a little bit.
Well, I think
highs and lows.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like.
Yeah.
I mean, from the highs of Lee Majors singing to Jamie, which I can watch endlessly.
I mean, you got Lee Majors singing.
Yeah.
You got Jamie Summers singing.
Yeah.
And so it's that was during the time period in the 70s, kids, when everybody had to sing. I don't know. My sister has a Keith Carradine album. I'm like, okay, I guess everybody got to sing in the 70s.
One of the standout episodes, I think, is Jamie's mother, which you get this whole new backstory about her mother, who supposedly died, but then suddenly reappears in her life.
Runs in her family.
Yes. And so we get kind of her interaction with the woman that's supposed to be her mother, who she thinks is her mother. So I think that was a good episode. That was grounded, but had some them trying to, there's some spy components that worked. I think so. Her as a spy worked in that one.
And the actress that played her mom,
pseudo
mom, just passed away like last week. I think.
Yeah,
I can't for the life of me remember what her name is.
No. And I think the one where, what's it called? I think it's the Angel of Mercy. So it's one of the early ones. Now we laugh about the fact that you can clearly see it's filmed next to the MASH set.
Yes.
So I mean, it looks like when she's running through this made-up South American country, it clearly looks like she's in Southern California, and running through you're waiting for Hawkeye and Radar to show up.
She runs past the signpost that has all those places.
Correct. But the tension in that one is, I like the fact that she knows she's not good at what they ask. They ask her to be a nurse.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, she should have looked at Oscar and said, "Are you kidding me?
Make me a tennis star.
Yeah, make me or a teacher." Yeah, but the fact that she has to go undercover as a nurse, but that really plays into the episode.
Yeah.
And so, although there's some cheesy elements. Of course, she made it a kid's show, so there's a little kid involved, but I still like the plot of that one, despite the filming, the way they filmed it.
My absolute favorite out of the 13 episodes is the one where the plane crashes on the island.
Oh yes, that one. Yes,
That was one of the things we joke about. Is with each episode we're like, okay, this was the 70s. Is this their Poseidon Adventure episode?
Right.
Is this their Alien episode? This one was their disaster movie.
Yes,
plane crash.
Their Airport 77.
Yes, which predated Airport 77.
Yes,
I might add.
Yes.
I thought that one was it had a great cast. It had a pretty cool, the audience knows what she doesn't know about who the bad guys are, and plus she gets to play off of Rudy, who, to the best of my knowledge, he's never really in the episode more than just being the guy that tells I almost said Orson Welles.
The Bionics are dying.
Yeah,
Steve's dying, or Jamie's dying.
Yes, he's always telling Richard Anderson something's bad.
Yes.
But to see them get to play off of each other in kind of a father-daughter kind of way was pretty cool.
I think that was called Fly Jamie.
Fly Jamie. Yeah.
So that was where she's a flight attendant. Which, and by the way, and in that episode, it cracks me up. There's an ongoing creepy foreign guy loves sexually harasses Jamie Summers, and so that one had I'm not sure what he was trying to portray, but it was probably some of the cringiest. But she dealt with it pretty well for the 70s.
Well, so that actor. That's his thing. Shtick, he was always like the womanizing kind of,
But I think we were talking too about the fact that we were saying it's their version of this, so it's their version of disaster film. It's their version of, so we had sort of a poltergeist fire starter, sort of episode, but I didn't realize just how much the creator of Bionic Woman was responsible for much of the sci-fi of the 70s and 80s. And clearly had an affinity for aliens. And so you get like a little bit of everything in this. So you get an alien story, you get a ghost story, you get...
if you take the Bionic franchise, the world of the Bionic people, you look there, they have everything. They have a Bigfoot, they have aliens, they have people with telekinetic powers, they have robots. It has everything you want in a sci-fi world.
Yeah, so I think that works. And it's just interesting that he, Kenneth Johnson later on went to, create, work on V and create Alien Nation and things like that. He even did, and then he also did sort of I think it was Shadowcaster, I think is what it was called. It was a short-lived sort of fire starter TV show. I don't really remember that one, but he talked about it in the credits. But yeah, I think that's interesting that you get all these different types of, and that was kind of a thing in the 70s. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the old, when Scooby-Doo moved beyond the fantastic first season, and then started adding all kinds of crazy stuff. That just was the thing to do in the 70s. So Ruth Buzzy shows up, and so. Or the Harlem Globetrotters, are trying to solve a mystery. And so I think that was just the people weren't tied in, to things. And so, like I said, it wasn't prestige. I've created this, 5-year TV show that I've written for, so they kind of just went kind of balls to the wall with it.
Yeah. And some of the more fantastic episodes, they really captured the feel of what you need for the fantastic episodes. You got the plane crash and those kind of episodes. But then when you come to say for instance the last episode of season 1,
the ghost
with the ghosts, the haunted house, that was one of the ones we watched the running commentary on, and the dude was explaining all these different ways they did stuff, and it's interesting that okay, for that episode, and that episode alone, because it was a haunted episode, they really played with the camera angles and the slow motion more than just her running, the slow motion and the weird lighting. So they knew what they were doing with each episode they did.
Yeah, they fit its genre. They made it fit its genre, is how they made the filming of it look different. And that one has you're right, it has a completely different feel than the rest of the episodes. But that's great. But it's one of the better episodes.
Yeah, it's probably my second favorite episode.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I've lost my train of thought. So another thing about the show that perhaps the 7 and 8 year olds we didn't realize was just how trailblazing it was.
Yeah.
They talk a lot, as does Lindsay Wagner, and she did win the Emmy in her first season.
Yeah.
Talked about the fact that she was a big hero to a lot of women and girls who had never seen a woman. That's why, and again, she made the character, not being pushed around by the guys. Although, boy, Oscar painfully.
Oscar likes to kiss Jamie.
Yeah. She friend zones him, so it's okay. So, but he's, it's a good thing that she adores him because he's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
But You don't see him doing that with Steve, minus a glance, a loving glance once in a while. It's a bromance. But yeah, so it was quite controversial for its time that they would do this.
Well, I had seen an interview with Lindsay back in the 90s when like Sci-Fi Channel debuted and picked up the Bionic movies and stuff. And the amount of mail that she was getting when she went from between being on the Bionic Man and having or $6 Million Man and having her own show was basically nothing compared to the deluge of mail she got from young girls who were just devastated that her show was canceled. Because her Wonder Woman came out the same year, ran for about the same amount of time. It's like, did somebody at the networks go, okay, we're done with women now, and let's just unplug the woman cord? Because both Wagner and Linda Carter had the same problem. The show wasn't doing bad in the ratings. That's not why they just canceled it for whatever reason, and it shook the female fan base of the show.
And I'm trying to think of what TV changed into those years. I'm trying to think of what it might have switched over to, or what did suddenly genre television fantasy go out. But I don't know. I can't. But then you get Manimal. You get a lot of.
Debuted in 1977,
right?
And was
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica followed after that. So sci-fi was still hot and heavy, but I think maybe it was that kind of science fiction that the producers thought people wanted more than this other more realistic stuff. Which to me, it seems to me that just from a financial standpoint, making an episode of the Bionic Woman would be a hell of a lot cheaper than making an episode of, say, Battlestar Galactica, where everything around it is science fiction. There's they're not running. Maybe they were, and they just colored the film different. They're not running in some, on the MASH set. They're not like in the Brady Bunch house, right, where the furniture has been rearranged.
Yes,
they're So I don't know what possessed them to. I know the one guy we were watching in the making of feature. He had talked about how the producers just thought they were out of steam, they were out of ideas. And you and I were joking about how, well, that wouldn't fly today. They milked this show for 10 seasons.
Yeah, it would have gone on forever.
Or if they were Netflix, they would cancel it, even though season 1 would be phenomenal. They'd still cancel it.
Correct.
Because it ain't making Stranger Things money. But yeah, they would have milked it for years on today's streaming.
If it was that as popular as it was in the 70s, it brought everyone together.
Because it was, the one dude was talking about how Bionic Man and
Bionic Woman,
$6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman were in the top 3 spots on television. I'm betting that middle one was Dallas.
Probably, yeah.
Because Dallas was you couldn't mess with Dallas.
Yeah, it seemed. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, granted, they brought them back. I'm sure one day we'll review the reunion movies. And so they did at least get to come back and kind of finish out their time together.
Yeah.
Finally got married. So finally, and so, but it's just one of those. But it's not. Minus a couple. I mean, it doesn't look cheap. I mean, I think they said something like 400,000 an episode.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't look cheap.
No.
I mean, there's one. We were just watching The Return of Bigfoot, and there's one scene where clearly the wall she's punching is styrofoam, but that's. But if you're a Doctor Who fan, you don't care.
No,
so, it looks like a rich tableau compared to Doctor Who. So look at some of that Bigfoot. But
it was an expensive show to make, but it shows. And I gotta wonder though, like where budget goes, because like we watch these episodes and there's like maybe 5 characters in the show. So it's like, and some extras who don't have speaking roles, so they don't get paid nearly as much. So going to the actors, where and they'll reuse a lot of the same places. Like they set it up so that she was a school teacher, so she had the classroom that they could use for set scenes and all of Oscar Goldman's everything.
Well, they had and it was on an Air Force base, so they used that the area around the Air Force base. A lot of the stories took place in, and so that was literally just filming on the back lot.
I'm thinking just maybe man hours and film.
Yeah,
because I know film, everything's digital now, but film was like I guess ridiculously expensive, which is why we were watching the blooper reel, and there wasn't a lot to it. Which there was tons more, but this is all that got saved,
correct,
because film wasn't cheap.
No, and so it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. I'm looking forward to when they move more into the sci-fi for her. In the later seasons.
Well, that was the weird thing. Watching, because once we finished season 1, we jumped and we watched the Return of Bigfoot. Like I think we talked about that already. But it was so weird because Jamie Summers' series wasn't that out there.
Right.
This was just a normal day for Steve Austin. For Jamie Summers, this was kind of a weird genre to get into. You had the girl with the telekinetic powers. Oops, spoiler.
Yeah.
The ghost episode, but overall, it was very grounded in reality. So it just seemed. I'm watching that. I'm like, this seems like when she's got the now Bigfoot. He can't hurt her.
Yes.
Did you for your life think you were going to be saying Bigfoot?
Yeah. But now that you're talking, now that I think about it, she saves Steve. I mean, pretty much Steve is incapacitated throughout most of the second episode. And so she does the legwork. I mean, she's the one that really turns Bigfoot good again.
Yeah.
And so, because Steve's too busy being all moony-eyed at Stephanie Zimbalist instead of Jamie. Or whatever her name is. Stephanie Powers. Zimbalist. Yeah, he became Remington Steele later. Yeah. All right, edit that. No, yes. But even with the Sasquatch, I mean, she's always doing the right. She's doing the right thing. Has a message about control and things like that. So very different from the tone of the first episode, which took place completely in the $6 Million Man universe. So,
but it's weird too. You were talking earlier about how you brought up the non-gratuitous violence, and that was a conscious choice on, say, the part of Lindsay and company to do that because they knew kids were watching. So it was kind of it wasn't forced. Whereas like a couple years later, we'll say 5 years later, you're watching the A-Team, okay, and it is as an adult, it is painfully obvious how censored they were because these guys are running around with machine guns and bombs and all this crazy stuff. And I'm wondering if how many censors were coming down on the A-Team versus what was going on with Bionic Man and Bionic Woman. But it shows that it wasn't forced like it was later on. We watched the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yeah.
And that cartoon, for as wholesome as it was, and it really was, it got canceled because it was too violent and too scary. And anybody that watched it as a kid and played D&D, well, what do you mean too violent?
Right.
Nobody ever hurts anybody in this show.
But we could end up as, out in the woods in the, killing ourselves.
Not like our parents care.
Right. Yeah. Wizards and Warriors or whatever that was. Yeah. No, I agree. It doesn't, the tone, they kept the tone even throughout the whole series.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, they eventually, after a few missteps, made it a point that she's not a great spy, and that creates tension in the episode, but she tries anyway.
I don't know whether this was intentional or this is just us writing our own fanfic or whatever. But the fact that she goes from being a tennis star to a bionic person doesn't automatically make her Jane Bond. Correct. So it was a little realistic, even when she was first doing stuff on the $6 Million Man, on the Return of the Bionic Woman. She was kind of messing it up, And then when she's in her own series, she's kind of like not the best at it. And it would have been in a show where somebody had bionics, it would have been unbelievable for her to just go from being a tennis star to a super spy.
Right. Or they could have easily fixed it and just said, well, Richard Anderson, now, Jamie, you've been through spy school.
Yeah, now you've
last year.
School,
so the last year, kid. Yeah, babe.
Got anything else?
Nope, I think I'm
going to go ahead and say we've talked this one into the ground. Mm-hmm. If you guys want to see more Bionic reviews, let us know in the comments. If there's here's a question for you: how old were you when the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman came on TV? And did you love it? Did you hate it?
I'm wondering if older teenagers would have hated it or not even cared.
I mean, obviously our kids wouldn't, because they're our kids. They like a lot of the same stuff we do. But there's older kids out there who, maybe have never seen this, and if you have watched it, what'd you think of it?
Or if you're having us watch other 70s shows, I mean, I do have the entire run of Battlestar Galactica from the 70s.
I'm in whether they are
right. Not. So, and of course, we do have the $6 Million Man too. So
yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun, even if it doesn't end up in a video. Because I haven't watched any of this since the 90s. So it would be fun to maybe flip-flop episodes to kind of see tonally how they play out,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you want to see more, let us know down below. For It Came From Saturday Night Live.
Nope.
Okay, take two. Okay, so for It Came From Saturday Night, I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Mothers noticed a difference right away. And from where I'm sitting, I couldn't agree more. Dryer is better. Drydees with snug seal tapes. A change for the dryer.
I'm sorry you had to see this too.